Hi, Muller. How are you?
I am very good. Thank you, Ashok. How are
Okay,
you?
okay. You know what? This particular piece of music has not been played for this year, so thank you for playing it this year, and I loved it, enjoyed it so much. Yeah, no, don't worry about it. Perfect. I love it. Excuse my dogs; they are getting excited also with the music. Anyway. Welcome to Leadership in Flow Asia Season 3, and I'm Ashok from Singapore, and Muller, you are in KL?
Yes, I'm still from Malaysia.
Relax, smile, it's okay, it's enjoy.
No, it's okay. Sean must be wondering why we're laughing. It's nothing to do with him. So while we try and focus back on the right things that could go right today, we have Shante, right? Who is the founder of Matrix Connection. Now, he's got an
Okay.
interesting, amazing story. But I think before we get to him, you need to do the normal introduction for people who might just be joining us for the first time.
Sure. For all those guys who have joined us for the first time, welcome to Leadership in Flow Asia. And this is season 3. We've been doing this since 2022. And what is this show about? This show is where we have conversations with leaders in Asia. And what we've discovered is there are a lot of quiet leaders out there who actually create massive impact. They're like under the currents, but they're actually doing great work, influencing positive changes. And what we've also discovered is these leaders tend to go through growth, whether it's personal growth, leadership growth, and business growth. It has been great discovering these nuggets of ideas from all these leaders for the last 3 years. So that's what Leadership in Flow Asia is about. And today we have Mr. Nice Guys. Leadership guide.
So for those who have joined us, right, like you'd be wondering, what is this Mr. Nice Guys Leaders Guide in Growth, Empowerment, and Accountability, right? So we met Sean, and Shamini introduced us to Sean, and she said, this guy is really nice. That's how she introduced Sean to me before I met him. And of course, in the pre-meet, when I met him, I really understood what Sham said. He's really a nice guy, right? So I'm going to bring Shante up. But, if you have joined us, say hello to us on the comment section. Don't be quiet in the background. And if you know Sean, do share about how nice he is. But what I really am looking forward is what I would call a rare conversation on leadership. Because I think whenever we talk about leadership, I don't know whether we actually envision a nice guy, but let's see how Sean, thrives in this space. Welcome, Sean, Sean, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you
Welcome,
so much
Sean.
for having me. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction.
No worries. So Muller is going to be throwing the first question to you, but I have one pre-question for you.
Sure.
I know I saw your image, the photograph that you gave us, which was on this. How do you look younger in person than the photograph?
Oh, okay. Stay healthy. Eat good. Yeah, I think that's the real secret.
Okay, stay healthy and eat well. All right.
I was going to say, I thought you would say I'm using a filter.
I'm glad I don't need one.
Oh, and in case anybody's wondering, I'm not using a filter either. But Sean, let's get to know you right now. So I was it's you've been the founder of Matrix a matrix connection. So tell us, because in that quick space we had, you did say you have a previous life, you did something else in your life. So
Yeah.
tell us about your previous life, how you transition into this life, right?
Yeah.
And how this life got better. And I think that those are the three parts of your life we need to cover in the next 3 minutes. All right, go.
Okay. So a very quick one. My previous life was actually an electrical contractor, believe it or not. So I graduated from school, worked 3 years in Singapore, and then came back to a family business in KL. And the electrical contracting was the business, the family business. So I did that for 3 years, and I set up my own company doing electrical contracting for 3 years till the China boom happened and everything just went upside down. A lot of contracts that we got were abandoned, and then we really got into some financial trouble. And I had a $1 million loan of overdraft converted to a 30-year term loan. So I owed the bank $1 million by the time I shut the company. And that was my previous life. So, of course, what started this whole journey was to recover from that. So I told myself, what could I do to actually be in the trend of what's happening in the economy? And that time was really the rise of software as a business, software as a service, should I say, which is the whole cloud computing that we are all experiencing today. So that was around 2007. So that was the start of Matrix Connection. So we became one of the first Google partner in Malaysia. So I would be proud to say that we helped start the Google Workspace business in Malaysia back in 2007. At that time, a lot of people were thinking that I was trying to be smart to sell Gmail, which was free to companies. So 3 years after that, going into this business, I managed to pay back the entire $1 million loan. And that has brought me to where I am today. So that's, in a nutshell, that's my previous life and my current life today.
And in that nutshell, I feel like we can do this whole 1 hour just on your transition, but we probably have to call you back or do another show on that. But I still have just one question because I cannot tahan. So it's just amazing that you said that. I mean, when we start businesses, we all want to be at least financially independent. So it's very interesting. You started a business, it probably did well, and undue, unforeseen circumstances, you are then stuck with a 1 million loan, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you sort of made the transition to even think proactively, what is another business that you can get into, for example, right? I'm very curious. Had it ever crossed your mind to go into employment?
No, because probably I already felt that I've already been a business owner for the last 6 years. So I didn't see that as an option. So I felt that I should just go ahead to still determine my own future, and not to say that employment is bad, but I just felt that I needed to find something in me that I was really passionate about, because I was so into saying to the whole saying, right? Find your passion and you will never work a single day of your life. And
Wow.
that's the motto that I went with.
Okay. And so then the question becomes, sorry, Ashok. From the background, from the electrical background that you had to
Yeah.
computing, right? Like, how do you find passion in a space that you don't know or don't understand?
So believe it or not, and maybe it's a bit of cliche, but the YouTube University taught me a lot. So I've always been very interested in using softwares, and I've always been a guy who really liked what's the latest. And during the time of 2006, 2007, I would say that was the boom of the Web 2.0 or the Web 3.0. At that time, we were still using BlackBerry, if anyone still remember that device. And that was like the device. if you want to get push mail. So to be like a VIP, you would be carrying like a BlackBerry device and you get push mail, like instant mail. So at that time, I felt like, hey, technology has become so much better. That time, Gmail was offering something similar, either free or at a very minimal cost. And so I learned a lot about that. And a lot of business owners were also just trying to jump into the bandwagon, the bandwagon of going digital. At least those who are forward thinking. And I felt that that's an area that I was completely interested in. So I read a lot about all the free softwares that was available for small business owners to try. And so it started with me helping up a small business to get them started on the various platforms that was free to help them run their business better. And then it became a passion. And so it started with really, just looking at YouTube, how to set it up, because everything was being offered for free. So there was a lot of tutorials and all that. So I learned those tutorials and I made sure that I made it easy and charge a minimal amount for these business owners to adopt. And lo and behold, when I saw everything was provided on Google, and then I said, this is it. I'm going to take this and focus on this and take it forward as a business.
Wow. Wow. Nice. I love the way YouTube has played such a important role in your life. So what comes just from your little stories, I think you generally are a very curious person and very open to learning and finding out and solving problem. And then after
Yep.
you solve the problem, you make a business out of it. Lah.
Yes. Yes.
So that's your typical pattern. Thank you so much. But before we go on, I just need to say hello to Gerald Fernandez. Hi, Gerald. Gerald has a good evening. For some reason, our system doesn't take in Gerald's good evening every other week. So, Gerald, we see you. Please go ahead and put down your questions or your comment about Sean if you have. So we've welcomed Gerald. Now let's move on. So it's very interesting that you've actually transitioned from one business to another business with a loan that was hanging over your head, and you said you managed to pay the loan within the first 3 years, which
Yeah.
means that your business was successful. That means that the new business that you started obviously was successful and has been growing, which is why we are having the conversation today. So from the time you started the business, right, in our pre-conversation, we saw you as this nice guy, right? You saw yourself as this nice guy. You still are, right? So for people who have joined us, maybe you can enlighten the audience who are listening now and who will listen later a little bit about your leadership journey from the time you started this business and then to a point where there was a major event in your business, which we will talk about, where you felt that you needed to pause and rethink, your leadership style or the person you are, right? So tell us a little bit about first your leadership journey from the time you started.
Yeah. So, like how I've mentioned, and how you have summed it up, it's always about me looking at what people would value and what people would pay me money for in terms of servicing them, and which is the problem that I help solve. So it's always about, for me, starting out very much as an entrepreneur, looking where the opportunity is, and then building a business off that. So being in this business of IT, I actually started very much like a technical guy, right? Just learn a lot, do a lot, and deliver that as a service. As I grew over the years of business, and it's 16 years right now in Matrix Connection. So it's really about connecting then and transitioning from, okay, just being the technical expert, how do I then really connect the business goals more, right? And when I say more, really means to say that now that I've grown from a small business setup to not to say a larger one, but a medium-sized one with more people and with more complexity going day to day and year to year as we grow. So the journey has been really not just about, keep doing the work and just get more technically enabled or expert in doing that, but really then growing the people as well. So that has taught me that leadership skills is not just about essentially leading a thriving business and being good at what we do, but it's also about growing people. And of course, that helped me make a transition to bring on a leadership team somewhere in 2017 and try to grow the company through that leadership team. What I was not prepared for was maybe how to manage a leadership team. And then an incident happened in 2021. In 2022, I should say, where the leadership team, the key leadership team, just resigned, all of them within 24 hours. And so that's the realization. And that was also the turning point in which that I realized that I was not prepared to deal with this. And it took me 9 months to restabilize the company while keeping the business running. So that's a little bit about the leadership journey that I've gone through. And in terms of, yes, leading the company, leading the business, then leading the people, and then trying to lead the leaders. And then that incident happened. And then now it has transitioned into a different phase where I then have to tell myself, how do I transition next so that such things would not be happening.
Wow. So that's a lot, right? You started
Yeah.
2007, 2017, you were ready to grow, you had a leadership team, and then in 5 years, whatever that you thought you you had set a foundation for the business to grow, and when the pillars of the foundation decide to leave, that must be a big blow. I would think so. I mean, every time I lose people from my team, for me, my recovery for every team member that I lose is 2 years, right? Yeah. So that's my, so I can only imagine losing a team at the same time, right? And that's what we said, when you mentioned you realized that you were not ready, right? So you also, I think that's the point of time where you were contemplating about the impact of you being a nice guy in your leadership, right? Because your nice guy personality identity worked when you were an entrepreneur and when you were slowly growing the business, or the business just grew on its own. And I think when you set up a leadership team, you were intentional about growing the business.
Yeah.
And when
Correct.
you were intentional, you recognize there's a lot of complexity, which is why you put a leadership team in. And when you did that, when things were just stabilizing, you say they left. So first, help us understand why you actually thought you were a nice guy. Let's go to the transition of how the idea of nice guy hit you, right? And before you answer, hi Ashraf Khalid, thank you for joining us again. We are talking to Shante, yeah, about being the nice guy. All right.
Thank you. Yeah. So thanks for the question. Yeah. I think being the nice guy has always been branded on me because I think as a entrepreneur and also someone who is very people centric, that's one way of attracting talent and keeping talent to me, right? Because if I am equally as passionate and if I am very much an active listener and I empower people and I treat them well with integrity, that's also something that I would also expect in return. So I've always believed in getting things done through people, and that as a leader, you become a greater leader when you have greater people surrounding you within your organization. And the reason why I've come to where I've come to is I always believe that regardless of whatever background that you come from, if someone joins my company, if his intention is right, if I treat him well, and if he basically feels empowered under my leadership, then they will blossom and they will grow as well. And with that passion, YouTube University, their willingness to learn and all that, they can also be like me. And so my dream has always been to replicate the same story. So I'm very attracted to the Google story because it's always the zero to hero story. And the people that I attract into my organization, I also want to always create the zero to hero story as well, along with my customers. So I think that for me was the operating mode, like treat people well, be nice, and throughout my entire business, I've always been able to enjoy the fruit of customer referrals and a lot of people remembering who I am, what I did in my business. Like they've never been my customer for the 10 years that I was trying to pitch to them, but 10 years later, they become my customer.
Nice.
So I always believe that being the nice guy works everywhere.
Okay. I'm not sure whether Ashok is ready to ask question because he looks like he's ready, but no, I'm not ready to give it to you, Ashok. Hold on there. Okay, after this. you you said something interesting, right? You said I always believed in being the nice guy. So I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you, are you a nice guy? That means, is that just your nature and you treat people that way and it worked for your business? Or did you, because the way, or did you think that that image of the nice guy that you were painting, listen to people, treat people well, respect, talent will come, or were you just naive to say, okay, this is the personality I need to be to attract people? So which is which now?
So I believe that there is not, I'm not saying that we don't be nice for now on, but I was missing the next element. As a business grows and as more responsibility comes as a leader, being nice is not enough.
Ah, so
Yeah,
you're not saying don't be nice. You're just saying the nice helped you in the beginning and you thought it was enough. And then at the transition, you realize that being nice alone is not enough to drive a business. So
yeah,
because we are looking at being a solopreneur to become an entrepreneur, and then looking at it as a business and growing it as a business, right? So people who are listening, we're not telling you not to be nice, but what Sean is saying is being nice alone is not
it's
enough.
enough.
Yeah, now we better bring the nice host to ask you the nice questions if he's ready. Mr. Ashok, are you ready?
Thank you very much for that, Malar. Okay, Sean. Wow. So honest. Thank you.
Yeah.
For whatever you've mentioned. I was just intrigued with the story that you've been sharing, and I have a lot of thoughts in my mind because when you started this company of yours, you were facing $1 million debt.
Yeah.
So I can imagine the emotional situation you're in and the resilience you had to build to start to take the first step again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear, I suspect, that is holding you. And then you decided to focus a lot on building your technical capabilities. Right. And then you said, okay, let's grow the business. And one of the strategies that you chose was to create a leadership team to grow the business.
Yeah.
And then that driver, that factor that was supposed to help you grow the business, they all left in 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know which is worse, the having the $1 million debt or losing that team itself. So it seems like, wow, both. I mean, it's a very emotional roller coaster ride that you would have gone through. Uh, Two questions that comes up to my mind is, I'm going to ask the first one. In each of this journey, right, from the very beginning, facing the uncertainties with the debts facing you, what are the leadership lessons that you learned from the start of Matrix to the
Yeah.
times that your leadership team dropped, and the pivot that you're doing now? What are the specific leadership lessons that you have learned?
Rule number one: never give up, no matter what. Never give up. And when I started with $1 million debt, you're already down there, right? What else do you have to lose, right? So there's nothing to lose, right? So the only way forward is really just upwards or forwards. There's no going back, right? You're already rock bottom. So to have grit and to have perseverance, I think that's basically the never give up attitude. I think that's one.
Okay.
And to the point where I drove the business, and then again the second incident happened. It's also again back to the same thing. If I've done it once before, if I could pick up myself from zero, then I should be confident that despite whatever happened, I can still pick up myself. It's like, what's the worst that can happen, right? And when you tell yourself like, what's the worst that can happen, and if you are able to then say, okay, if the worst is this, the worst is this, and then you tell yourself, can I work with that? And when you tell yourself, yeah, I can work with that, right? And that's really, again, right, never give up. And of course, throughout this whole journey, I've also learned a lot in terms of dealing with people and also managing people. It's yes, we should be nice, we should empower people, but what's more important is communication. I believe somewhere down the line, sometimes that's something that I wasn't good at managing. Perhaps I didn't talk things out. So I think that's another key learning, right? In this whole journey of working with people in leadership, especially, it's very, very important to always talk things out. Yes, you can be nice and all that, but don't be afraid to talk things out, and don't be afraid to not make tough decisions, which will end up sometimes not being the nice person. But when a tough decision needs to be made, then it needs to be made, although it could be unpopular. And that doesn't mean that you're not nice, right? Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so what I'm hearing from you is a couple of lessons, and the most important lesson for you is never give up.
Yeah.
And the way you think about never giving up is also you reflect on your past, and you look at worst case scenarios. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Look at all the possibilities to say, okay, let's take the step forward now.
Yes.
Right. And when you said communications is a third lesson you learn, it appears to be a little painful the way you mentioned it, because you said that you need to talk things out, and then make the right decision, because there are two aspects to that, is it? Making the right decision is the follow up because of a good conversation. The outcome of a good conversation is the decisions that you will make. Right. So it is in the conversations that you were stuck in. So what were the specific areas do you feel that you were stuck in? Is it more on the alignment type of conversations you had, or actions, accountability conversations? Where were you stuck in that you feel that added more worries for you?
Yeah. I believe it's the conversation around accountability. Being an entrepreneur, being a self-starter, of course, naturally the habit becomes I become the problem solver all the time. And essentially, when I take on people, I would also expect that they also adopt this same mantra, that when I bring you in, you become my problem solver. But sometimes, perhaps, some of these individuals that we bring in, they may not be ready, or they've not gone through the various paths towards leadership, and they may not be ready to be a problem solver and take on accountability right from the start. And if I didn't have, so I would say that if I've had more communication, open communication, and also have more conversations around accountability, responsibility at every level of the organization, certain things could have been avoided. So sometimes, like you say, the tough decisions were taken because either, and this probably led to some events, right? The events of certain people walking out could be, you've decided that they were not mature enough to have that kind of communication. And so certain decisions were made without communicating that, because we felt that they were not part of that. They should, they were not mature enough to have that conversation. And then things happen. So I think the lesson learned here is, whatever it is, it's not to say we as leaders should justify why we take certain action, but we should be clear and communicative to say that we need to take this decision that I'm going to take it out, but it needs to be communicated.
Yeah. I think as leaders, yes, we like to have a little bit more democratic world where we want to have everybody's views. But the reality is, as much as we like to give autonomy to everyone, autonomy comes with responsibilities. And autonomy does not mean that everyone has a free say in decisions. The reality is leaders need to make those decisions. And that's a reality in the business world. And it's very interesting that you raise about communication specifically to accountability and responsibility, because
Yes,
what I'm continuously also seeing, and you have reaffirmed this, right, is where these conversations do not happen well. This is where trust issues come about.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because you're not holding to that accountability and responsibility conversation. What am I expecting? Because there is no expectations, there's no conversations around that. What are the specific deliverables, measurable in whether time and in money, whichever it is, right? And then that's where the trust issue comes about, and where we go into that we don't trust each other.
That's
and,
right.
and you and you have really showed why communications very specifically on accountability and responsibility, regardless whether you're an SME or MNC or a government, whichever, right, at a leadership level, is extremely important.
Yes,
So thank you very much. I think that is, to me, is one of the most important confirmation of what a leader's role is holding those conversations. I won't even say it's tough, but it's necessary conversations
yeah,
on accountability and responsibility in that sense. So
absolutely.
thank you. So thank you very much for that, Sean. So I have a very naughty question to ask actually.
Okay.
The naughty question in my mind is like, okay, because you come across as a very nice guy, sincere. You don't seem to be putting on any act at all, and I believe this is how you have been. This is your personality. So the question in my mind is then, why would people leave a nice guy? In 24 hours? It's a bit of a naughty question.
Okay, but I appreciate the question. So
Mm,
and I believe that being a leader here is it's important that people see a future with you as a leader.
nice.
And if certain things are not communicated, if certain things are not talked out and laid out in the open, and of course, then as you mentioned, trust breaks down.
Mm,
When trust breaks down, whether you're nice or not, it doesn't matter anymore, right? And so being nice, like I said, being nice alone is not good. It's a good basis to basically have within an organization. I think maybe the word nice should be coined as empathy, right?
mm,
And I know that empathy itself has many ways of being communicated, right? And executed and implemented. Uh, and we're just going into words, but I believe that that's also a skill that needs to be learned by a leader as well,
mm,
right?
mm, mm.
How do you balance empathy and responsibility and accountability and all that, right? To then ultimately have trust. So people will still leave if you're nice. And
Right.
maybe people will still leave because they know that nice minus everything else is not going to get the whole company or even their career anywhere.
Right. 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 So what I'm hearing is people also have other forms of expectations for their personal growth and their business growth, and they
Yeah,
want to see where they're going to be part of that trajectory.
yeah,
And
yeah,
those are also important conversations to hold, because people also have their underlining purposes, their passions, like what you mentioned earlier, right? If you find your passion, there's never a day of work, right? So they
yes,
also need to find that, and it's important to keep communicating that and articulating that and confirming whether that's where is this a platform where they can find their passion,
yeah,
right? And that's where the empathy comes in, you see. Accountability and responsibility is in terms of the task that you do. The empathy is also about the person, that the person lives they live,
yeah.
right? So thank you very much for that. I've got one more question before I hand you over to Miss Sari. All right. So these are very, very important lessons that you're bringing out, not only at the leadership level, but at a personal level. So
Yeah,
thank you very much for sharing that, because what you're saying is, yes, it's communication that is important, but I also need to delve into empathy to understand individuals to also help drive the business. So what changes do you need to make as a person?
In this whole growth, I realized that there are many skills that are also what I call the hard skills of being a better CEO, especially now transitioning from an entrepreneur to being more like an executive role to really lead the company and be more strategic and be out of the weed of the day to day. That's a skill that I need to grow within myself as a leader. Yeah. So I think that's where it's important to talk a lot about structures, processes, so that if anything were to happen to me or to any key individuals, the business can still keep running. To me, that's a realization.
So what I'm hearing from you is one of the realization about your own personal change that you need to make is how do you now create trust by letting go, by
Yes.
creating processes, system structures, right? And taking two steps back in that sense, so you can grow the business with
Yep.
in a sustainable manner with the next pipeline of leaders,
Yep.
right? And letting go in that sense, and that must be difficult, isn't it?
Yes. On the one hand, I want to let go.
Mm-hmm.
But on the second hand, now that I realize that if you let go too much, then
Mm-hmm.
you're not communicating the alignment, and that's where it's important, right? Everyone needs to see an alignment, and everyone will always look up to the leader for alignment. If letting go entirely without any form of guidance or any form of like conversation or communication in terms of, is this being done right? Is this how I would have done it? And or at least have that conversation to say, why did we take this decision? With the leaders that we have empowered. Without those, I think letting go entirely, while it's good, you give empowerment, but it could also be uh, to the next line of leaders. It's like you're throwing me into the deep end as well. So I've learned that going forward, the skills enablement of a leader, it's so important. Even I myself have to learn to be a better leader, but the next in line should also be skilled. And hence, right now in Matrix Connection, we are investing a lot in upskilling our leaders in communication, especially, and also leadership skills in the end. And it seems like as I go and dive deeper into this whole uh, uh, area of leadership, I've also begin to realize that there are many, many levels of leadership. Taking inspiration from the book, The Leadership Pipeline, I think it really maps out the journey of a leader, even for myself, and all the different, functional leader, business leader, and all that kind of thing. It just becomes a realization now that there's so much more that I need to learn.
Right, right. Yeah, because focusing on the business itself, the PNL is one aspect, but the leadership aspect is totally different, right? There
Yeah,
are different type of skills that you require, and what you keep alluding back to all the time. Yes, you need to empower, you need to make people, enable people, you need to hold them accountable. But one thing that you keep coming back to is communicate, communicate, communicate. Is a communication skill that appears to be the lubricant, the catalyst to drive growth and
yes,
performance. It appears to be.
yes, you're absolutely right. I've learned that throughout my whole years, in 16 years of running the business, communication is so important because sometimes we can have long meetings and sometimes long meetings are not productive. And that's where I've learned that every level of the organization, and recently we went through this workshop called Think on Your Feet. To me, I felt that skill is so important and so life-changing to every level of my organization because number one, it helps us to all concise and deliver very clearly what's in our head and how to communicate very effectively so that people will just flow with your communication or what is intended to be the objective of a meeting or a conversation. So yeah, I think communication is the key. you know.
Yes, yes. And I think from my experience, a lot of people talk about it. Pun intended. Talk about communication, right? But
By talking, just
yeah,
talking.
they just talk about it, but there are a lot of skills required in that, because it's not only about what you say, how you say it, it's what you
Yes,
listen, the tonalities, understanding the nuances, the emotions behind it. There's a whole world there within the scope of empathetic empowering conversations.
yes.
So thank you very much.
And
Yes, you're
if I
going to
can
say
be
something.
funny, if I can be funny, or at least attempt to be funny, so putting on the nice guy to always be communicating in that mode doesn't always help for different situations. So this doesn't mean that we should not be nice, but you know, like you mentioned, right? There's so many ways of communicating. Like, do you speak with a smile or do you don't speak with a smile, and things like that. I mean, those are even the technicalities that I realized that it can have such a big difference.
Right, right. No, thank you very much for that, Sean. Yes, Muller, you got a nice guy question coming up. Oh, yes, you can take over now. I'm nice enough to give you the space.
No, I love your clarity, Sean. Really love your clarity. I mean, I think as a small business owner, I perfectly understand. I feel what you're saying, right? And what I love and I'm learning with you is the clarity of skill enablement, right? So you use the word skill enablement. That means, sometimes we take communication skills as a given,
Mm,
don't realize how we need to learn it well so that we do it well. And you're using communication to drive accountability and responsibility, and some of these conversations can be difficult, right? Can be challenging, can be uncomfortable. And what
yeah.
I'm hearing you say is that every time it becomes difficult, it becomes challenging, it becomes conflicting, it becomes uncomfortable, then your image of the nice guy might be shaken, maybe shattered, is what I'm hearing. Because I think what we haven't got into is that really what does it mean to be a nice guy? So I'm going to just take the privilege of seeing the difference that I see, right? And then you disagree with me, then we'll have a bit of fun with
Okay.
it while Ashok watches us with the next question. See, I think the whole idea is we associate when we say someone is nice, we associate that there are no uncomfortable conversation. There's no accountability, right? And even if there are mistakes, a nice guy does not come and talk to us about what has gone wrong. And I think perhaps in today's conversation, that's the clarity that we take back, because when you do what is right for you and for the business and for the people, right? That is the right thing to do. And doing the right thing doesn't make me not nice, but you don't feel nice, lah. Right? When I'm on the receiving end and you are asking me for accountability, and I realize, oh my goodness, I'm not sure whether I'm ready for this or I know how to do that. I feel uncomfortable. When I feel uncomfortable, I cannot point at you and say you're not the nice guy.
Mm, mm.
So, and I think that's the whole clarity of identity of what we are holding. Because for people who hold it, I mean, I want to be a nice guy to nice girl too, right? I want to be nice to people. I want people to love me. But when I hold people accountable, or when I ask certain questions, when we go into conflict, the other person is not going to like the experience, just like even I don't like the experience, right?
Mm, mm.
But just because you don't like the experience, don't say I am not nice, right? But having said that, we get stuck in this identity because as leaders, we all, not all, we want, some of us like us, we struggle with the identity of needing to be nice. We hold on to our ideals being nice. Now, when you do what is right for you and for the people and the business, and people are experiencing you as not nice, and you still need to do what is required, How do you reconcile that whole image about what you were in terms of behavior and what you are now in terms of behavior? Because you know, in people's mind, they're not having a nice experience with this same Sean.
Mm.
How do you reconcile within so that you can congruently go out and do what is necessary, yet in within yourself you need to anchor that I am the same Sean with similar values of respect, right? And kindness and empathy. Yeah. How do you do that?
So honestly, how I'm doing it right now is I'm taking up a lot of upskilling courses with my leaders on things like tough conversations. How do you have tough conversations? How do you provide sandwich feedback, right? Again, these are all leading into technical skills. It gives me the space to then have them understand and come to my position to say that being nice doesn't mean that I have to agree to everything. And if I don't agree to everything that you say, it doesn't mean that I'm not being nice. So for me, how I reconcile this is really jointly all of us understanding that there's a bigger goal that is more important, and it's important for all of us jointly. And how we get there is not just by sitting here, all of us sitting, having a good conversation all the time, irregardless of whether things goes right or wrong, and just not bring up uncomfortable conversation. So I don't know if it makes sense, but the way I'm compensating and reconciling is really building up that understanding that everyone knows that essentially my intentions are good. I have empathy for everyone, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to continue to just maintain harmony all the time and avoid conflict or trying to justify for one person versus the other, while instead it should actually be surface and people should talk it out, right? I think being nice sometimes in a table of leaders have created some pressure among my other leaders to then feel that because Sean is like this, then I shouldn't speak out if I don't agree with the next department leader. So I realized that that's actually very harmful. So I don't know if I make sense. You know, I
I
know I
don't
need
know
to.
whether I don't know whether. So what I'm getting, actually, for me, you're very clear, right? What you seem to be doing is, I mean, the idea that you're upskilling so much yourself and your team. You know that you had the difficulty, which is why you're upskilling. You know your leaders are going to have the same difficult,
Absolutely.
nice guy, stuck in the nice guy image in the way we are used to, right? And what I see is that you are now educating the whole team to re-look at a new picture of what a nice guy looks. That's what I see, right? So I don't see you moving away from the nice guy's image. So
Yeah.
you are still the nice guy, except that you acknowledge that this nice guy, because he wanted to make people feel comfortable all the time, in whatever way, not dealing with conflict, maybe not holding people accountable, not communicating enough, not having tough conversation. You probably avoided that consciously or unconsciously. That gave you, definitely the negative results, which was your wake up call. But what you're doing now is you're not rushing into it. You see, we often go from nice to not nice, good to
Yes.
bad.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty about you is you are so clear that you're not going to flip this way. You are
Yeah.
slowly moving yourself to say, where do I need to stop? And I can't do this alone. And I need to do it with the team, because all of us need to move and grow together. But
Yeah.
most importantly, you are doing this for the purpose of the business.
Yes.
Because if we don't do this, if you don't do this, you're going to lose people who you shouldn't lose for the reasons you shouldn't lose them. You will lose people, but you want to lose them for the right reason, not because
Yes.
it's a leadership failure, right? You don't want that. So you're making that you're finding your right space to be optimal now, and you're connecting it to business purpose, because you're saying, oh, I'm, let us understand why this is so critical, why this experience is going to be different for you and for me, and it's difficult for you and for me, but we got to do this together, which is why we need to learn new skills. And it's
Yes.
fantastic because the focus is skills, not because I'm a bad person, I didn't know how to do it better. I i think it's brilliant. Now, however, right, something, it must be so important for you to think that this change is critical for the business, because
Yeah.
it's not your natural way of wanting to deal with conflict. In someone like me, I need to deal with conflict. I can't sleep without conflicts. I don't think the harmonist. So your trade-off, like what you said, you upskilled yourself, and you're trading off, while you're upskilling, you're trading off that harmony that you felt when you were not dealing with this stuff, right?
Mm.
And yeah, tell us why it's a lot of effort to do this, right? Why is this change, all the changes that you're talking about, critical to your business?
So our turning point was when we are recognized as one of Google's cloud, one of the partner of the year for 2024 for Google Cloud in Malaysia. So I've realized that um, given this honor of being recognized and awarded with this award, now gives us a good hope for everyone that has been with the company to say that let us move further from here. And I want to be that effective leader for my team to say that, yes, we are great. We are creating a future together. I don't want to give everyone that nice cliche saying, oh, year on year, we're just going to get better, and then not do anything about it. So for me, the real struggle here is that perhaps I've grown up with this concept of what Mr. Nice Guy is, but we all have different definition of it. And I think for most of us, when you say a nice guy, this guy can just take any trash that you throw at him. And I think tends to be that all of us have this ideal, right? This person will just spoil me. Whatever I ask, he will give. Whatever I want, there's not going to be a no. So perhaps I've gone to the very extreme part of this definition when I bring myself into a business that I'm leading. But now I know that, hey, business is growing, customers are growing, expectations are growing, technology is changing as fast as ever. We have an obligation, both, especially me as a leader, I have an obligation to the people that I serve as my customer, and now the people that I want to continue to attract into my company, and everyone that is part of the ecosystem. So the realization has come that now I got to fix this concept, and I cannot make this as a central theme to drive my every decision. The decision has to be more encompassing. Yeah, being nice is part of it, but that alone is definitely not enough. There's a lot of other things that needs to come in place. It will still be the foundation because I definitely want to have happy people working with the organization, and I still love good conversation with my staff when we actually gather in a social way. So I think the effective part of a leader is there needs to be both, right? You need to be effective when it comes to business, and right, and key decisions need to be made. You need to be that in that frame of mind and be firm. And I've come to learn that staff will not like accuse you of not being nice when you make the right decision for the business. So I've
And
come
for
to,
them,
and for them, exactly.
the right
But
decision for the business is the right decision for them, right? And if I
Correct.
had to redefine your Mr. Nice, again, I would say Mr. Nice doesn't equal to not saying no or saying yes all the time,
yes, exactly.
right? It's just not about saying yes all the time. Oh,
Yeah.
very, very nice. I think the kind of clarity that you have is awesome at a very deep level. I've really, really enjoyed, I've learned so much from your calm, harmonious, nice guy identity. I still think you are the nice guy, and I don't think we can shift you. But what is really interesting is that I think you've given us a lot of nuggets, right? If you are a nice guy, so any nice guys watching this, nice or nice girls watching this, right, will know why it is really important to have clarity about who we are, why we're doing, what's our role in leadership, and why being nice, and how you navigate through your niceness is important for in leading our people for growth, empowerment, and accountability is what we've been drawing out of you, Sean. So thank you so much. Um, I would love to ask you more question, but Ashok is almost going to send me a message to say that
Yes,
he's never going to co-host for me. So I'm
yes.
passing it back to him.
Or something similar to that. Yes. She loves asking questions, Sean, and she's just like, okay. But I love listening to her anyway. So that's fantastic. So
Love the
very
questions. Yeah.
yeah, I do. So two very quick questions I have for you, Sean. Right? What I'm hearing from you is the environment is growing and changing in that sense. And what I'm hearing from you is it all pivots to decision making. So the question I have for you from your nice guy aspect, what is the one aspect that needs to be maintained to make the right decisions in this growth area? And what is the one aspect that needs to be shedded off? So one should be, what is the one nice guy aspect that needs to be maintained? What should be thrown away?
Okay. Um, what I should throw away about my definition to myself or change when it comes to saying being a Mr. Nice Guy is it's not about saying yes to everything. It's not about always making the most popular decision and try to keep everyone happy. That's the one thing that I will shed away when it comes to my definition of being a nice guy, right? What I will keep in terms of what Mr. Nice Guy would be as a boss and as a leader is someone who has empathy, yes, someone who can sees it from your point of view as an employee or staff, and someone who can really still be sociable and really want to genuinely get to know you as a person for the organization. So I think to me that's nice, right? Someone as a boss, regardless of ranks, you still want to know that person genuinely, the person that's working for you and the person that's putting the trust that you as the leader, you're gonna bring them somewhere, right? You're gonna be their hopes and dreams of a better future in their professional career, and maybe outside of that as well. So
Nice, nice.
I
So what
will
I'm
keep.
hearing is the area that you will keep is empathy. The one that you'll throw away is not saying yes to everything and anyone just for the sake of it. Right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
In a
All right.
nutshell.
So very quick one. Your 1 minute question for you, right?
Yes.
Looking back, what do you wish you knew?
So I wish that I had focused more on succession planning much earlier on in the business and realizing that when it is such a long process, even for myself to let go and develop myself as a different kind of a leader from a business leader to ultimately a leaders of leaders. And likewise also for the people that I will select as my future leaders, understanding that there is a long path for them and there are stages in which they will need to graduate from, from year on year and skill by skill. I wish I've started this journey much earlier on in my business. I'm just starting on that journey ever since last year. So, but I wish I've started it much earlier on. So if I knew this, yeah, it would have made a lot of difference.
Right. Thank you very much for that, Sean. And just to summarize, how this is going to also help you in your nice guy leaders guide, right? Few things that we've learned from you today is number one, never give up. So that's my advice to you. I'm going to reflect it back to you, what you just shared. you said you wish you knew this when you're starting the journey. Never give up. And
Yes.
the way you did that is you have learned technical skills, and this is a technical skill that you're going to be learning. Three, communication. Right? You always say it's a very important leadership skill, and as you go through in their journey for the future, keep focusing on that leadership skill. And the fourth thing you talked about is trust. Build trust by holding the right conversation at the right time, especially around accountability and responsibility. And every point of time, have empathy and create the empathy so that everyone can make the right decisions for the trajectory and the growth of the business. Well, this is your takeaways for the leadership guide. Nice guy, leadership guide. Thank you very much, Sean.
You summed it very well.
Thank you. Right. Muller, over to you as we wrap up the show.
Yeah, I wanted to say whether I summed it up nicely, but I'll talk to him off screen later, Sean. I need to talk to you. Just giving him compliments. It's okay. You don't have to be nice about it. I don't have to be nice about it. But Sean, thank you very, very much. It's been I learned so much. Not only I learned, I feel very inspired by your authenticity and honesty and vulnerability. Yet, the one big thing I learned about you here is there's only one thing that you said which indicated the pain you took in throughout this journey. That when people throw trash at you,
Mm,
and I think it tells us who you are, because in that 1 hour conversation you took almost everything as your own learning, which is what everybody wants to hear, right? But somewhere I think accidentally I appreciated to hear that accidentally from you, because it really tells me how much of responsibility you take in resolving the challenges that comes as a leader. So I want to thank you. Really, really good having you. Hope to meet you for a cup of coffee sometime, somehow, somewhere we're near. But before I let you go, is there anything that you like to say to the audience who are listening?
yeah, I want to say something in response to what you just mentioned, that I always reflect back to myself, because in life there's only one person I can change, and that's myself,
Oh,
right? I mean, I'm not saying this in a cliche way, but I'm just saying that, we can try so hard to change people. And I think that's why I feel that there's so much to learn in communication skills, because yes, if we communicate well, if we use the right tools, the right data, in business communication, yes, we can communicate change and we can affect change. But in everything that we do, the only person that I can change immediately right now is just myself. So I think thank you for reminding that to me, and this is what you've picked up. And to me, yeah, I take that as a positive thing, to constantly remind me, right, that as leaders we want to make so many things happen, and we think that I need to change this person, I need to get this person to think this way, that way, this way, that way, right? But the only one thing that I can communicate that to is back to myself and say, okay, how do I make that happen, right?
thank you, Sean. Now you oh, okay, we gotta go. So thank you, Sean. As we say bye to Sean and put ourselves back as the center of attention, we should say goodbye quickly, right?
Very quickly. Thank you very much again, Muller and Sean. And it's been a wonderful learning again for me.
Yeah, me too. In fact, I think more than learning, I'm feeling so inspired. I think today is a good day because I wore a sari. So with that, this is Malar signing off from Malaysia.
And this is Ashok without Asari from Singapore. Thank you all very much for logging in.
Good night.